Okay. Well, let's start expanding upon our code we were looking at before. So we'll review a little bit about the code we had, and we'll look at the new code I put in. Um, and I'm documenting this all into a Word document. So I'll have that done by should be by Sunday. I just have to do screenshots and so forth. Um, it's just about there actually. This is so when you're designing any SQLite database, then you know what to do. So I go through it step by step. Step one, right click on the package where main activity is located. Um, choose new Java class, and then enter in database helper, and then your android.database.sqlite open helper in the super class. Then click OK. And then I start talking about the imports you need to put in and adding your database name and so forth. So um, I have actually all the steps there. I just have to, well, no, I don't, because I think I have to put the update, delete, and select code. So I got 15, 16, 15, 16, 17. So 17 there. And then I got to do some screenshots above, but it's almost there. That should make it easier when you're designing one completely from scratch to just follow along with the document. Okay, so what I did is I added this class, this database helper. Now up here, we declare our database name, whatever we want to call it, and we declare our table name. Now, you're probably going to be working with more than one table. You will be working with more than one table in this class, but probably if you're writing an app, you're probably going to be working with more than one table. And excuse me. So, if you had other table names, you would just add them in. Table name 2 or whatever you want equals customer table, like that. So you'd add however many table names you need to. I'm gonna get rid of that because I'm gonna zip up this code and put it out there so you can download it if you want. Look at it. Then we're gonna have this have public database helper context super um, super context database name factory null version. I'm drawing a blank because I'm not sure why I have this on a single line. Oh, okay. It was just showing it. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember putting it on a single line. This is our constructor. And what it does with this super is, since it's extended from SQLite Open Helper, it goes back there for the constructor, and it brings in basically all the code that the SQLite Open Helper provides. That's public. Now we have to do this on. You have to have an on create and on upgrade. So those have to exist. Now the on create here is based upon our table name, and so is the on upgrade. So it could be that if you have multiple tables, then you need to put multiple lines in here. You don't need to have separate methods. So you wouldn't have like an on create 1, on create 2, on create 3. It has to be named this. But if I had another table, I would copy this. Come down here and paste it in. Actually, I guess you wouldn't have to declare SQL text again. But create table, table name 2, put whatever your items are called here, ID, sales amount, so forth. And I'll get rid of that. Like I said, Gonna zip this up. Down here, on upgrade, and all of this is just as you see. But if you had multiple tables, then you would for this here you could put the different table names in here. Now realize that this calls on create. This calls this up here, so that's calling that and that's running that. So the order doesn't matter. You don't want to put your drops after the on create. So you want to drop the table if it exists, and then it comes up here. Now this does not run it all the time, so don't think this runs every time you run your program, because you still have tables out there from before, and if it dropped it each time and recreated it, you would have brand new each time. But you're sitting there, well, why do I need it if I never run it? Well, Android Studio forces you to have it. So then down here, you're going to have many of these potentially. You're going to have insert data, and this can be whatever you want to call it. Probably best if you start with insert data, update data, delete data, select data, so it's readable. And then I would recommend doing an underscore and then putting your table name. Now, it may seem bad to hard code it, and I thought about this a lot yesterday, trying to think how can I come up with a generic method that will work on a table. And I could not do it without stripping a lot of this out of here and not having very much out here in the insert data. And we'll talk more about that here in a second. Okay. We got our string name value, int age value, string address value. You should have as many coming in here as you plan to insert into your table. You notice down here, I'm going to be inserting name, age, and address. So I needed 3 fields. And 2 of them are strings, text, and 1 of them is an integer, a number. We got our on result. It has to be there. This has to be there for every one of these operations. Associating this variable DB with this get writable database. This refers to that particular class, and so it's referring to the database. The content values. This is where your parameters go in at least for the insert. So this you could actually bring in. You wouldn't have to bring in name value, age value, and address value. You could just bring in content values. And then in your main activity.java, you could build the content values over there. Well, which is better? Do you build it here or do you build it over there? Well, I don't know the answer to that. But you could write this generic enough. I suppose if you wrote it generic enough, I have to think about that. As there might be a way to do that where you don't have to do anything except for a main activity. But you still have to do a lot there. You have to build your values. Okay, I digress. After you declare CVS, content values, you call it CVS or whatever you want to call it. All the rest has to be that name. Then you do CVS.put, and this refers to our field, our column in our database, and this refers to what value we're going to put into it. We'll be passing that in as a parameter. Same with age, same with address. These have to correspond with these right here. You can't have different names. If this says name here, you have to use name right here. If this says age, you have to use age right here. Now, interestingly enough, nowhere do we specify the data type here. Now, the parameter we have here defines that's an integer, and that's coming in right there. Okay. Now, if you have an additional field on here, realize that you do not have to have all of your fields here. You don't have to insert all the values. And then we do a result. That's where it comes back and tells us it's worked or not. And we do a db.insert and got our table name and null column hack, null, and then CVS. That CVS is what we're bringing in to be inserted. And this checks the results and returns true or false to let the main program know whether it worked or not. Now let's look at the calling for the insert. And I know we looked at this last time, and I should have named this different, but oh well. Because these other ones I did name it like on update button. I should have named this on insert button. But what I do here is, well, first off, up here you have to have your imports for your SQLite, so those have to be there. You have to declare a database helper, and I called it DB1. And then down here, grabbing a drink. Then down here, you're creating a new instance of it. And so new database helper context this. These are just getting them in from the edit text, so nothing exciting there. Once I've switched them over to name, age, and address, and name, age, and address are strings and integer as accordingly, then all I'm going to do is call db1 dot insert data underscore address table. That's the method we were just looking at. Name, age, and address. That calls this right here. Now the reason you have to put db1 on the front of that is because that's our database helper that we declared. Now if you're wondering, well, where's the database helper come from? Well, that's the name of this class. So that's what makes the connection between these two. And then this, if the results return is true, that means it worked. Otherwise, it did not work. So that gives us an indication on that. Now that was our insert. And that's what we looked at last time. So really nothing new there. Just want to refresh our memory. Now the update data. Notice I did update data, address table. And I'm returning an integer this time. We're going to see. We're going to talk Y here in a minute. And then string, name value, int, age value, string, address value. Same idea as before. Bring those in. And I declare a variable called count. Count is going to be how many rows we update. And again, I have this in every one of these codes. I have the content values in most of them, not all of them. And here we just have age and address. And you may be sitting there wondering, well, why not name? You bring name in. Well, we're doing an update. And with an update, we're going to update it where name is equal to something. So the name we're not actually updating. We're updating the other two columns. Now here's our selection string. So we got name, and then we got like and question mark. The question mark is where our parameter goes, the argument. And that comes from here, a selection argument. You see how we got name value here? So whatever we pass in as a name, let's say I pass in David. Then it'll take that selection argument and plug it in where the question mark is. So it'll say like David. And it handles it for you, whether it's a string or an integer or whatever. So since it's a string, it'll go ahead and put the single quotes around it. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay. So I just keep getting this email from this individual, and his message is always the same. And just another one just popped up every time I upload a YouTube video. He automatically sends me, or she, or whoever. Keep it up. Looking forward for more videos from you. Don't stop. Would you like to be YouTube friends? And it has to be automated. And it just fascinates me that there's somebody running a program out there looking for new, and let's say focus in specifically on me, looking for new YouTube videos and just automatically send an email. So what really puzzles me about it is just like what benefit is it to be a friend on YouTube? More friends you have, the more hits you get, and it could be if I have maybe 500,000 friends, maybe I get more hits on YouTube videos. I don't know. Oh, it's a puzzler. Okay. The count is equal to, and this is calling db.update. So it's pretty self-explanatory when you look into it. You know, how do you insert? Well, you call db.insert. How do you update? I call it db.update. And it walks you through even the parameters after you get that far. It asks you what table name is. And notice I got table name here. That's what we define up above, and that would match your address table. We have our CVS, that's our content values. We have our selection, and that's this line right here, and then we have our selection arguments, which is right here. I don't really understand this yet. I'm still learning myself. I played with this before, but I'm definitely not a genius at it. give me 10 years, and I'll be able to do it in my sleep. But if you're wondering why like, why not equals? Like returns everything that is similar to what you input in. Usually it's combined with a wildcard of some sort. So I have like, then I have David, and I have the wildcard, which is, I believe, a percent. And then it'll give me everything that starts with David. Now, since I'm not putting the wildcard on there, it should still work. But the question is, why don't you put equals? So where name is equal to David. Well, I tried that and it didn't work. So you have to have like there. Let's see, I'm not really sure why. That's just the way they have it designed. And this return account. So if it updates one record, return one. And then it's return that to my main program. So down here, I do int count because I'm going to see how many rows I returned. db1 is equal new database helper. Got that string, that's still the same. I bring in the values from the text boxes, or the edit text, retrieve those, and then I call my update data address table, passing in name, age, and address. It's going to return the count, which is the number of rows. And what do I do with that? I put that into my T3, which is my edit underscore result, and then close the database. Okay. I wish developing on a Apple was this easy. It's a lot harder developing on Apple than it is on the Android. Android is just made just so much easier. Okay, delete data. And this is in my database helper. So you do delete data and then your table name. So if you're going to be deleting data off of 10 tables, you'd have 10 methods. int count, okay, that's all the same. Then we get down here. We have to have a selection criteria. Name like, and this is where I'll pass in like the name. And I'm going to delete the record that has a name equal to David. But again, you have to have a like there. The argument, again, how this works is whatever I pass in as a parameter gets plugged in for this question mark when it runs. And then I simply call db delete, passing in table name, comma selection arguments. And then this will return the count to my main program. So tell me how many records are deleted. So here's my on delete button. It's a lot simpler. I have count for my number of rows deleted. I do my database helper again, string name, and I bring in name and I make the association of the result. And get the name, call, delete data, address table, passing in the name. It'll return the count, and so the count I print out to the screen as a result of what happened. And then I close the database. And last one, so not necessarily a trivial one, it's a little bit harder to understand. Took me forever to figure this out. The code examples they put out there do not mention this fact. So it's nice. Unless I was just looking at the wrong code examples. You have to declare a cursor. Oh, by the way, select data, address table. So again, put the name of the table there. A cursor is like a, you can think of it as a memory location where you're going to return results. So if you're going to go off and query and you're going to have 10 rows, it puts those 10 rows of data into the cursor. So then you can work with a cursor. So it doesn't return them one by one. It returns the entire result to your cursor. Okay, we got our SQLite database just like before. Now we got our string columns. What this is what columns you're going to retrieve. So if I want to pull a name, age, and address, this would be equivalent to doing a select name, comma, age, comma, address from address table. Now here's our selection. This is like our where in our select statement, where name is equal to David. Now notice I did use the equals here. I think I tried like, and like doesn't work. That was one of the first things I discovered. And then your arguments, selection arguments, again, it takes name value, which is passed as a parameter here, and plugs it in for the question mark here, with the appropriate single quotes around it if it's a string. Then our cursor is result, so I say result equals db.query. You pass in the table name, comma, columns. So those are our columns we have specified. By the way, that's a list, an array of items. So that's what these brackets indicate. And so is the selection arguments down here, though I just have one. And we're going to look at in coming weeks, how do you handle multiple selection? If you got two fields, name equals David and address is equal to Main Street. How do you handle that? So we're going to expand upon this. But anyway, table name, columns, selection arguments. Then there's a group by, and I have null here, having null, and order by null. These are SQL commands. Group by allows a summary. So if you wanted to come up with like a total for regions, then you could group by region. Having, I'm drawing a blank. What is having? I don't know what having is. Order by is where you sort it. So like if I wanted to do an order by, I could come here and string order it equals, and I put my name and like descending. And so then that'd be passed in down here in the order by. I don't care at this point to order it because I'm not bringing in like 100 records yet. We're starting off with this and we're going to build up to that. Okay, and so then I call it on select button here. Oh, very important. You have to have this. Put a result.move to first. This moves the pointer to the first row of your cursor. If you don't do this, it just doesn't work. It even blows up, which I couldn't understand. I was debugging it and I can understand it not having anything in the cursor. That's perfectly understandable. But why it wouldn't actually continue, that's the part that really threw me. I tried everything under the sun. I don't even know what made me try that. I think I just typed result dot and started looking at the different options. So I moved to first. Let me try that. And that sure was it. Now here's how we call it. This on select button. And I'll show where those are attached to here shortly. We define a cursor here because we're going to be returning the cursor to our main program. So you have to define it here. And database 1 equals new database helper, just like before. We got string name. We're bringing all those in. Why do I bring those in? Oh, so I can write to them. Okay, never mind. But the name I bring in so I know what to retrieve. And I pass in the name into this select data address table, and it returns a result, which is a cursor. And so then here I check to see if the count is greater than -1. Means I found something. If I didn't find something, then I don't want to do anything besides close the database. Maybe I'd want to just give them an error message saying record not found or something. Then here t1.setText result dot get string, and I'm returning 3 items if you remember. I'm searching for name, age, and address, and it looks like this. Select name, age, address. So the order of these: name is first, age is second, address is third. The numbering starts at 0, so the name would be position 0, age would be position 1, address would be position 2. So over here, when I'm referring to column index 0, I'm referring to name, and I'm referring to column index 1 and column index 2. Now these are just simply result.getString and then returning it. And here I have to do a string.value of to change this integer to a string so I can write it out to the field or to the edit text. And then here I just received the last one. Realize there's other options. Result.get get float, get int, get long, get short, string, get type, get blob. So you're not limited just to get string and get int. It's whatever is stored in the database. Okay, so that pretty well covers all of the code. So let's run it and see how it works. Now this coding scenario I'm giving you here is based upon a single record. I suppose delete might work on more than one. They have the same key. Okay, so anyway, I have 4 buttons here. Those correspond to your 4 methods and main activity. If I want to insert a record, David 77 100 Main Street. Click the insert. It tells you it worked. You may wonder, well, how do I know it worked? Well, no longer do you have to look it up in that little database utility, though we will use that in the future. I can do this select to look up based upon if David's there. If I click that, see, I found this. Now you're saying, whoa, that isn't what you input. No, it isn't. That's another record that has David on it. So mine's just set up to handle 1 record. Probably if I hit the delete at this point, it will delete maybe 2 records because I have 2 of them with David. Like if I choose this and I want to choose delete, let's click delete. See how it just deleted 2 records? Now if I do a select, it won't find it. Hopefully it won't blow up. I didn't actually test that. But let's insert another record and show the update. Okay, so I got 33 in main. I click the insert, and it worked. Now, if I want to update that, well, this is my key. David's my key. So I'll change that to 55, and I'll change this to Main Street. Now, if I click update, it tells me 1 means 1 record was updated. Of course, the question is, did it really work? Well, if I back these out, my goal was to have those automatically blanked out in the code, but I ran out of time. I didn't get the iOS one completely done, unfortunately. So it has a little bit of an error. It took me too long to get this figured out, that 1 line of code. But anyway, if I do a select on that, you see it has my change values in there. So this shows you doing all of these, and everything we're going to do based upon SQLite will be based upon those 4 functions you see there. When we return a cursor and we have multiple lines, we're not going to want it as a single entry here. We'll have it like maybe in some kind of table-like format. Soon we'll see how to do that. And then after we get done playing with SQLite, I'm still well, I haven't looked. Got busy in something else, but I'm looking to that free database that we can use on the internet. And so that'd be the perfect world, because then if I run an application and you're running it and I'm running it and 5 other people are running it, they're accessing the same database. Problem with SQLite is it's local to your phone. It's very nice for storing information and so forth, but if you're trying to share information with other people, it doesn't work. Most of your apps that need to communicate with each other, they don't communicate with SQLite. They may store that locally, but they communicate with a database out there that's hosted. And there's lots of them that you can pay for. And they're probably really easy to use. SQLite is an open source, so it's free, and it's a challenge sometimes to get it to work quite right. Just as I indicated over here, that if you don't do this result move to first, it does not work. I would understand if it didn't return any records, but it just blows up. Well, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to zip up this this project. Download YouTube Player Tutorial Database Application. And I'll make it available for you. Downloads. Why would I put anything in downloads? YouTube Player Tutorial 16. Which one am I looking at? This is the database application. So this one right here. Okay. Close this. Zip this up. Boy, I'm just up kind of late trying to figure this out. Press zip folder. Now, sometimes I have trouble bringing in these projects into in Android Studio or Xcode. But if you drill down, you should be able to see those .java files and be able to use those. A lot of the grading I do, all I can do in some cases is just look at your code. And so, so if you've had a bit of code that maybe wasn't working quite right, didn't run, when I was looking at the code, for me, it looked like it was correct, and you got the points you did. So I want to point that out. If you try to open this project, you may or may not have luck. Sometimes I'm successful at it. I'm usually better at Xcode in terms of opening up a project, but again, when the versions get out of sync, these packages aren't real forgiving sometimes. You can open it up, but sometimes it leaves parts of the code out. Well, have a great weekend, and I'll put a project out here for this. Basically, it's going to be to create a table, and I'll have you like put five different columns in it, and have you recreate that insert, delete, update, and then put those five text fields on your screen. I want you to do a mix of different data types, an integer, a string, a double, number with decimals. Um, anyway, have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you later.